Arabian Night Part 1. In the history of the Sassanid dynasty, who ruled in antiquity, from Persia to the boundaries of China, lasting nearly 400 years, we read the praises of one of the major rivers, the Ganges, outside of the river itself. Among the kings of this race, he was regarded as the greatest Tsar ever. His neighbors feared him, his people adored him, and when he passed away, he left his realm in a stronger and more affluent state than no ruler had ever done what he did. The two sons that were left behind him had a deep attachment for one another. Shahryar, the older, was deeply hurt by what the imperial rules prohibited. He would rule alongside his brother Shahsman. Indeed, following 10 years had passed, and this situation had not stopped bothering people. Shahryar separated Great Tartary from the Persian Empire through him, made his brother the ruler of the empire. Sultan Shahryar had a wife whom he loved more than all the others at this point. His greatest joy came from surrounding her with the splendor of the world, and to present her with the most exquisite clothing and jewelry. It was with the greatest regret and shame that he unintentionally found after a number of years that she had entirely misled him. Because her behavior as a whole turned out to be so poor, he felt obligated to uphold the law of the land, direct the Grand Vizier to execute her, and that the fewer there were in the world, the better. As a result, every day he married a new wife that evening and killed her the next day. The morning before the Grand Vizier, whose responsibility it was to supply these Sultan's brides, are unhappy. The poor man completed his task. There was reluctance, but there was no way out, and every day saw a girl marry, and a wife who has died. Nothing but cries and lamentations could be heard in the town as a result of this behavior. In one house, a father grieved for the loss of his daughter, in another, a mother trembled for the fate of her child. And instead of the blessings that had previously been heaped on Sultan's head, the air was now heavy with curses. The Grand Vizier had two daughters, the elder of whom was called Scheherazade and the younger Dinarzade. Dinarzade possessed no special abilities that distinguished her from the other girls, but her sister was extremely intelligent and courageous. Her father had given her the best masters in philosophy, medicine, history, and the fine arts, and her beauty was phenomenal in the kingdom of Persia. When the Grand Vizier was talking to his eldest daughter, his delight and pride, Scheherazade approached him and said, "Father, I have a favor to ask of you, will you grant it to me? I can't refuse you anything," he said, "because it's just and reasonable." "Then listen," Scheherazade said. "I am determined to put an end to the Sultan's barbaric practice and to save the girls and mothers from the terrible fate that awaits them." "It would be a wonderful thing to do," the Grand Vizier replied, "but how do you intend to accomplish it?" "My father," Scheherazade replied, "it is you who have to provide the Sultan with a new wife every day, and I implore you, with all the affection you bear me, to allow the honor to fall upon me." "Have you gone insane?" exclaimed the Grand Vizier, staggering back in horror. "What has put such a thing in your head? You should know by now. What has gotten into your head? You should know what it means to be the Sultan's bride by now." "Yes, my father," she replied, "and I am not afraid to think of it. If I fail, my death will be glorious, and if I succeed, I will have done a great service to my country." "It's pointless," the Grand Vizier said, "I'll never consent. If the Sultan orders me to plunge a dagger into your heart, I'd have to obey. What a task for a father. Ah, if you don't fear death, fear the anguish you'd cause me." "Will you grant me what I ask once more, my father?" Scheherazade asked. "What, you're still so stubborn?" exclaimed the Grand Vizier. "Why are you so hell-bent on your own demise?" But the maiden would not listen to her father's words, and finally, in despair, the Grand Vizier was forced to yield and return to the palace to inform the Sultan that he would bring him Scheherazade the following evening. "Sire," the Grand Vizier replied, "it is her own wish, even the sad fate that awaits her could not deter her." "Let there be no mistake, Vizier," the Sultan said. "Remember, you will have to take her life yourself, if you refuse. I swear that your head will pay forfeit." "Sire," said the Vizier, "whatever the cost, I will obey you. As a father, I am also your subject," the Sultan said, allowing the Grand Vizier to bring his daughter whenever he pleased. The vizier returned this news to Scheherazade, who received it as if it were the most wonderful thing in the world. She thanked her father warmly for granting her wishes and, seeing him still bowed down in grief, told him she hoped he would never regret allowing her to marry the Sultan. She then went to prepare for the marriage and begged that her sister Dinarzade be sent to speak with her. When the two of them were alone, Scheherazade addressed her as follows. My dear sister, I need your assistance in a very important matter. My father is taking me to the palace to celebrate my marriage with the Sultan. When His Highness receives me, I will beg him, as a last courtesy, to allow you to sleep in our chamber, so that I may have your company during the last night I am alive. If, as I hope, he grants my wish, be sure to wake me an hour before dawn and say to me, my sister, if you are not asleep, I beg you, before the sun rises, to tell me one of your charming stories. Then I shall begin, and I hope to deliver the people from the terror that reigns over them. Dinarzade replied that she would do what her sister wished with pleasure. When the usual hour arrived, the Grand Vizier conducted Scheherazade to the palace, and left her alone with the Sultan, who bade her raise her veil and was amazed at her beauty. But seeing her eyes full of tears, he asked what was the matter. Sire, replied Scheherazade, I have a sister who loves me as tenderly as I love her. Grant me the favor of allowing her to sleep this night in the same room, as it is the last we shall be together. Shahryar consented to Scheherazade's petition, and Dinarzade was sent for. Dinarzade awoke an hour before daybreak and exclaimed, as she had promised, my dear sister, if you are not asleep, please tell me one of your charming stories before the sun rises. It is the last time I shall have the pleasure of hearing you. Scheherazade did not respond to her sister, instead turning to the Sultan. Will your Highness permit me to do as my sister requests? She asked. Willingly, he responded. So Scheherazade began.